We'd like to welcome everyone out to our workshop. Do we have a staff report or anything as an introduction?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This is the workshop for the pre-application review number 2015-234, and it's for a proposal for a retail center located on the southwest corner of Scott Road and Leon Road. And I would ask Lisa Gordon, our planning manager, and also the project manager, to review this with the commission.
Good evening, Lisa Gordon presenting the pre-application review. The project site is located south of Scott Road and west of Leon Road. The current general plan land use for the site.
Do we have any?
Oops.
No, sorry.
Oh, wait. Going up. There we go. The existing general plan land use of the site is rural residential, 2-acre minimum. If a shopping center were to be located on this property, we would need to change the general plan land use to commercial. To the north, in the county of Riverside, you have property designated rural residential 5-acre minimum. To the south and west, it's rural residential 2-acre minimum. And to the east in the county of Riverside, it's rural community estate density residential 2-acre minimum. The existing zoning of the site is rural residential 2.5-acre minimum. That zoning is also to the south and west of the property. To the east in the county of Riverside, you also have rural residential that has a 1/2-acre minimum lot size, and then to the north you have light agriculture 5-acre minimum. This project is a proposal for a retail center on the southwest corner of Scott and Leon Road. The retail center includes 4 buildings. A restaurant building, an anchor building that's 12,000 square feet, another building that would be for a veterinary and retail, and a gas station with a convenience store and 2 fuel pumps. The applicant's intent is to provide uses that would serve the surrounding rural area. These are the proposed elevations for the center. This is the larger anchor building on the top, and then the buildings on the bottom would be either the gas station or the restaurant. And these are the other renderings. The elevation on the bottom is the backs of the buildings that would be facing the western property line. As mentioned previously, the project is not consistent with the existing general plan land use of the site, rural residential 2-acre minimum. This land use allows for residential uses, animal keeping, and agricultural uses, but not for a shopping center. A general plan amendment and zone change would be required to be processed concurrent with the application for the retail development. The project site is surrounded by residential uses on large lots, so one of the reasons we're bringing this forward tonight is to get some feedback from the commission on whether this retail center is consistent with and compatible with the surrounding uses. This picture on the slide here is from the southeast corner of the project site looking southwest. So this is directly south of the project site. There's horse properties in the photo. The applicant has incorporated a horse corral, water tanks, and windmill, and plans to utilize a rural themed architecture as we saw in the elevations. This is the road on the south end of the project site and looking west towards Menifee. The exhibit also has an equestrian trail along the eastern property line along Leon. This is from the eastern edge of the property looking northeast. There is a lack of a buffer at the western property line to the existing residential uses. So in the pictures you see here, the first picture is from Scott Road looking south at the western property line, and then there's an aerial of the existing site and the closest residence to the west of the property. On the site plan that the applicant has submitted, there's only a 20-foot setback from the building to the adjacent property. Please note that the site plan has not been reviewed by our Engineering and Public Works Department. Upon submittal of a formal application, Engineering and Public Works will ensure that the roads, driveways, driveway spacing, et cetera, are consistent with the circulation element of the general plan and with city standards. In the due diligence meetings with the applicant, staff did recommend that the applicant work with the property owner to the west to provide a shared driveway to limit the amount of driveways on Scott Road, since it is a major road, and due to the limited spacing between the driveway and the intersection with Leon and Scott. At this time, staff recommends that we conduct the open to the public workshop and provide feedback to the applicant. The applicant does have a PowerPoint presentation they would like to present, so I'll get that loaded.
Okay.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me all right? Very good. I want to thank Lisa and Bob for their time and sharing with Jim and I during our due diligence meetings and the feedback that they gave us there. I want to add my welcome to Randy Madrid, and I'll do that when he gets here, I hope. And I want to thank you all for your time and service on the Planning Commission. The project's designer, Jim Irvin, is here with me tonight, and he and I are here to hear your ideas and questions, concerns about what you see in the application package and the report that you've received from staff. Before we jump into the dialogue about the center's features and layout, I want to address the inconsistency with the current zoning and general plan. We ask you to consider whether or not this change at this time is best for the rural area and for the city of Menifee. Here's a few reasons why we think it is. It replaces a blight in a great neighborhood with a pleasant and productive community and regional asset. The proposed improvements and services are more compatible and harmonious with the rural residential area than another mobile home would be, which is allowed under the current zoning. To give a quick example on this point, I just wanted to kind of give an example of what would happen if there was another home there. Sandy and Mark Taylor, who I don't think made it here tonight. Oh, there you are. Hi, Mark. But when I met Mark and Sandy at a meeting this last week about another project, and they have a very nice home-based business down Leon called Animals First. And this is my friend Jeff Waller, who's all dressed up for an interview. If I create a rental home there and allow Jeff and his family to move in, that would give Mark and Sandy some very nice neighbors. Now, Jeff's a great guy, and he will loan Sandy a cup of sugar or refill Mark's propane cylinders, but Jeff will eventually grow tired of serving Sandy and Mark dinner when they're not feeling up to cooking. All right, the area is dramatically underserved, leaving residents to travel for miles and often out of Menifee by car to get fuels, goods, and services. Hitching Post Plaza takes advantage of its prime high-traffic location and provides, to provide the needed services and help Menifee further its 2030 vision in 7 important ways, which are all listed on the handout I brought tonight. Jennifer, does everybody have those? Oh, so you all have a paper copy of my PowerPoint slides so that you have those to flip through and reference later. I want to touch on just one of the city's vision ideas during my presentation. The vision point is Menifee is a sought-after and safe place to live, work, and visit. Because there are no services in the area, law enforcement and life-saving paramedic emergency response times in the rural area are longer than average. This center would attract those good on- and off-duty men and women, because where else are they going to get a cup of coffee or get something to eat when they're out in that area? I can't promise faster response times, but I can predict that responders will be in the area more often, getting to know customers, business owners, and employees, and will be ready to serve when they are called. And looking forward to 2030 and beyond, the site is the only corner Menifee controls at this future nexus of cities. I brought this map to show you that Murrieta's sphere of influence comes up to Scott Road on the southeast corner, and Winchester's Mac area and Future City lies to the north. So that's kind of the triple intersection there of what will be in the future. I can't say when that will happen, but somewhere down the road. Menifee can set the tone for this nexus by leading with a rurally themed retail center, showing Winchester and Murrieta examples of what tasteful, themed, mixed-use planning in rural areas can do to enhance rural lifestyles. Lastly, but certainly not the least important reason that this is the right project at the right time is the revenue and cost savings it would bring to Menifee in the form of property, sales, and gasoline taxes, development fees, donated versus purchased land for the widening of both Scott and Leon, and city gateway demarcation. I'm happy to elaborate at this time and as interests allow on any of these points and others, but for now, I'll put up a couple of slides about the features of the center and in my presentation so that we can hear from you.
We'll go ahead and have Randy step in here. We let everyone know you're running late, so glad you made it for here. So go ahead and, excuse me. No, right over here. There you go.
And nameplate for you and everything.
So do you have some more detail then on the rest of the slides, I assume, to?
I do. I have more details about what sort of preferred tenants that we would be looking for. I can discuss anything and everything that you would like to discuss. I just wanted to put up this first slide about some of the features of the center and some of the, kind of the spirit of what we were going for here with muted color schemes and a more rustic rural feel. I think you all have had a chance. I hope you all have had a chance to see the elevations. If you have not, there's a copy of the elevations back here, and the site plan and elevations are on this board as well. Then I also have a list of some of the preferred tenants. And again, I'd be glad to discuss any of that. I didn't want to take too much time with my opening remarks because I'm sure that there's plenty of discussion to be had, and I didn't want to monopolize the conversation.
Well, why don't you go ahead and give us all the information in the rest of your slides and as much information as you think would help us.
Okay.
And then if there's questions pop up, it's, free dialogue. It's not a public hearing, so we can, intervene anytime. So go ahead and go through your presentation.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that is the end of my presentation. I have
Oh,
other
okay.
slides there that I can conclude with or draw on as need be, but I would much rather hear from you all at this point. If there's.
Let me
if
ask you
there's-
something.
Is there, yeah, please.
Can you go back to that slide? It's like the colorful
Yeah, absolutely,
Jubilee.
right there.
What is this?
This is.
I'm not
a-
really understanding what the slide shows me.
Okay, this is the Murrieta. I wish I had a clicker or a laser pointer. I do not.
Where is your property on this slide?
Okay, perfect, thank you. Thank you for highlighting that. So if you see where the pointer is that Lisa's bringing up there, that's the edge of the city of Menifee on that L-shaped area of the 3rd District.
So that green line there, is that the city?
Beyond is the
That's
city
the
boundary.
end-
City
that's the end
boundary.
there. So that is the city gateway. When you're coming, when you'll be, in the future, when my grandchildren are coming in on Scott Road from Winchester Road, this will be the city gateway in one form or another. On the east side of the road, that's Murrieta's sphere of influence, and they have that all the way over to specific plan 310.
But
and
it's
then Winchester's
technically
Mac is to the
county
north.
of Riverside at this point.
That's exactly right.
And what's in all that kind of goldish, beigeish area, that large, just to I guess it'd be the southwest of your property?
That's a great question. Lisa, do you know the answer to that? What city of Murrieta has in that particular color there?
I don't know if it's all city of Murrieta. I think some of it might be county of Riverside. I'd have to look. I think there's some nature preserves in that area because the Warm Springs runs through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
And
believe
the
that
area
is
that's not
county.
colored at all is the county area on the map. The area that's colored, I believe, is in the city's either sphere or city boundaries. I could not speak to that. But this map reflects both their sphere of influence and their current city boundaries. Okay, okay.
And just north of this property is where the high school's going to go.
Correct. The future high school site, presuming it gets its funding, is a half mile directly north of this site at Wickard and Leon. As you looked through the staff package, did you have any questions, concerns, feedback for us? I really want to hear what you all have to say.
I guess I have one other question. There's
Yes.
a home on that property now, right?
There is a structure that was originally permitted in, is it 1981, Jim? Do you remember what the permit date was?
Yeah, that's about.
Something like that. The original builder pulled a ag barn permit for a two-story ag barn with a detached three-car garage, got their project built and approved, and then proceeded to turn it into a house.
Does anybody live there?
No. When I stepped onto the property for the first time about a year ago, the front door was laying this way to the frame of the door, and the inside of the house had been completely ransacked, and for the copper wire inside, it had been vacant for a very, very long time, and I.
5, say 6 years ago, there were people living in it, and it's been, transients have been in it since. Now, are you the current owner?
I'm the current owner. I acquired the property almost exactly a year ago.
A year ago, okay.
Yeah, there was a party that was trying to buy it and thinking about fixing it up as a house again, and we obviously couldn't get its financing because it was never ever going to be a house, because it was never permitted to be a house. So,
That thing's going to have to be
yeah.
demolished.
what's that?
You're going to demolish that first thing, I presume.
That would, if we go with the retail center idea, obviously, that would be the first thing. We would have to demolish what is at the site. The only thing that we propose to save from the site is the hitching post that is adjacent to. Lisa, would you mind going back to the aerial photo? I don't know if there's a, not within my PowerPoint presentation, but one that you showed during your staff presentation. Anyway, there is a foundation of a residence that was there probably in the 1800s. There's nothing left there but a stone foundation at this point. And next to that stone foundation, there's a hitching post. And we intend to preserve that hitching post and use it to divide the corral area so that the folks who want to ride their horses in will have a place to tie up for their horses. And that will divide the corral so that the horses who are patients of the veterinarian's office will have a place to be separated from the animals who are transportation modes.
Is there any kind of historical significance to the plot?
To the hitching post, or?
Well, I mean, if you have a foundation of a residence that's from the 1800s, I mean, I get concerned that there might be some sort of
I don't
historical
know.
preservation
I
issue.
looked at some of the documents that were in the title history, and the Peroy name came up. But I don't have any historical information that would suggest that the Peroy family lived there at any particular time. But those are great questions.
Does anyone else have any questions on this?
Please.
Did you address the buffer before I came in?
No, there's no, we just heard a little bit about the project, but there's no specific buffering discussion, no.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Madrid. I welcomed you to the Planning Commission in your absence, and very nice to meet you. The buffer is a very important issue. I brought a photo I brought a photo that's similar to the aerial photograph that's on Lisa's staff presentation. I also brought a photo that it was on my flash drive that shows the view looking from Perrine down where the road turns to show the view of that the adjacent property owner has to the west, to my property. Because the structure that is on my property is two-story, they've never had a view out that way, and they have a gorgeous property that incorporates Warm Springs Creek right through the middle of their property. And is the property owner here tonight, the adjacent property owner? They sent a letter in, but I wasn't sure if they were going to be here. But their property faces, there you go, their property faces the west, and they look out over this beautiful pastoral setting with their horses walking around out there keeping their weeds down, and they really have their backs to my property because that's what they look at. They've been looking at a boarded up, two-story, semi-permitted, blighted barn for the last, as long as that has been the situation. Again, this structure was built in the 80s. I don't know when their structure was built. I understand from an opposition letter that they spent about $60,000 fixing up their home. So I honestly don't know when that home was built.
If we don't have any more questions, why don't we hear from the public, and then we'll discuss the project. But let's go ahead and hear. Do we have any public speakers on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And
let's
I'll
go
just
ahead and do that.
Note that the commission did receive 2 letters of opposition.
Okay.
First speaker is Rick Croy.
Step out of the way here. I'll leave that there, Rick.
Thanks.
Hi, Rick Croy. I'm speaking as a private resident and a member, longtime member of the rural community. I know that rural property owners jealously protect what has always been. It's a ongoing theme. To me, this is seems like a very workable idea in the fact that, as Ms. Little mentioned, it is a gateway. And nothing would thrill me more than to see an architecturally designed commercial piece with a rural theme as you come into the city. I think it's a great idea. From the architecturals, it looks really nice. The fact that we have to go outside, and one of the ongoing themes that you hear is sales tax leakage. I know my own feed bill between $400 and $700 a month should be spent in Menifee, and I feel guilty every time I go to the vet or something like that, and those taxes go away. We really, really, really need something like this in the city because we don't have anything like it. And I think with a tastefully designed buildings and stuff, I think this could really work. It is a little scary when you change from commercial to residential, especially in a rural area, but that is going to be a very busy intersection, and as you come into the city, I think if you see a couple barns, it reinforces that entire area, which is going to be rural for a very, very long time. Thank you.
Harry George.
Did you say Harry George?
That's what she said.
Good evening. My name is Harry George. I live on Scott Road, probably less than 200 yards from this project, near the corner of Scott and Leon. We have 5 acres. My wife rodeos professionally. We have horses on our property. And what I heard in the introduction, I don't mean to be rude or crude, but to me it was a bunch of poppycock. I don't know how it can be more compatible to the area when it's already zoned residential. We have wells. We live off the water that's drawn off our property. There are a lot of people in there with wells, and obviously I'm against this project. If anybody lived in that area, which we have for 19 years now, that house has been there and people have lived in it, and rural is rural. It's not city there. It's the way the place is being developed all around us now. I mean, we have everything from coyotes, ground owls, red-tailed hawks that sit in our trees and pick out the gophers, and the owls at night come, and it's rural. And it'd be a shame to see our property and that when we have all kinds of shops all around us. And as far as getting fuel for my tractor, for the last 19 years, I've never had a problem getting diesel for my tractor or feed for our horses. If anybody wants to know, there's approximately 20 gas stations within 7 miles of this location. That's 20. We have gasoline stations. We have 7-Eleven down the street. And as far as veterinarians and dressing it out and so forth and trying to put that spice into it, well, horse trailers and bringing large equine or any big, it'd be very difficult to get in and out of tight spaces with any kind. Maybe for a dog or a cat, a vet place might be fine, but to bring in a horse trailer or to bring in something like that for a horse or a larger animal, it'd be very difficult. Yeah, we have fire department. We know our sheriffs. We know usually the men who are on duty. We know the fire department guys that come around and they get lost a lot of times in the addresses in the rural area. They'll come looking for something so they know the streets. We're not underserved. We haven't been underserved for 19 years. This is not a place for a commercial zone. We've got plenty of commercial stuff around here. And
Mr. George, that is your time.
And
I
thank you very
appreciate it,
much.
and I appreciate your time listening to somebody who's lived there for 19 years. Thank you. Water is important, and our wells, I'm afraid of gas in our.
Next speaker is Mark Taylor.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Thank you for letting me share. In terms, I'm sorry? I'm hearing behind me. I'm hard of hearing, so I'm not sure.
Okay,
who's talking.
let's let him speak. Anyone else wants to speak, you can speak. Let's respect his time. Go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Chris. Catch my thought again. We are business owners, as Angela mentioned. Our business is animals first, and having a rural residential zoning is in fact extremely important to us because it's required for our business, which has been there for 16 years. So that is a concern. I put that I'm in favor of the project with concerns, and that being one of them. Some of the other concerns are this, that I have proposed to the County of Riverside and to the City of Menifee, that it'd be important that this city keeps certain areas where they can be pockets of rural residential homes that eventually the lower, lesser mobiles might get bought out and they become estates and sort of become like the Los Ranchitos or the Santiago Ranches, if you're familiar with those in Temecula, of the City of Menifee. Nobody wants a complete 48 square mile city of high-density homes with concrete walls. So it's important that you decide where that's going to be, and I propose an area that may be too large for the city, probably too large for the county and developers, but I think everybody agrees that there should be something. The proposal I made is everything north of Keller Road, everything south of Scott Road, everything east of Briggs Road, and everything west of Port Roy be that pocket for the most part. I would be willing to make somewhat of an adaptation right on that corner with the high school coming in, with it being somewhat, as Angela mentioned, an entranceway into the city. The concerns with that and the housing projects that are coming in off of El Centro on Scott Road, one major concern is the federal blue line that runs north of Scott Road, actually goes across right now Scott Road on the corner of Scott and Leon. It floods when we have major rains. It's been shut down by the Highway Patrol before. It runs right behind the southeast portion, or the southwest portion, I'm sorry, of Angela's property. Probably about 50 feet away is that blue line, that federal blue line, runs all the way down. Those creeks run into Murrieta and Temecula. Somehow that light signal design, whatever, has got to make a way for that blue line to flow and for that corner to not flood. That's a major concern. I also have neighbors that I know in the area. We've been around 16 years. Andrea and Ricky Reyes live right on that block. They're good friends of ours. Donna and Ed Chavez are their neighbors right on that block. And I'm real sensitive to their concerns because they live right there, just 3 homes from this site. That's all I had to say. I'm for it, but with great concerns too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy Taylor.
I come as a team act, I think. It seems like ever since I moved to the country, I spent my entire life coming to these meetings and going to Riverside to defend our country living. And we spent 2 years trying to find a place that had the rural zoning to do what we had to do as our business. And ever since then, in the name of progress and building, everyone deserves to have a home and so forth. But we deserve to have country life. We deserve to have our quality of life. And I can truly tell you that our quality of life has seriously gone down since the inflection of all the tract homes, not only in our direct area, but further reaching, where people have now used our Leon Road and Scott Road as just a throughfare to get to the freeways. So traffic is number one big issue with everybody. And safety is another issue with everybody, and we have the rural life and horses and children, and nobody seems to give a hoot about our children or horses or our way of life. I thought this might be kind of something nice for us to have, you know, because we have no community, we have no quick fix to go get milk, or I like the idea of a restaurant here, because everything we have to do, you're building up here in Newport like crazy, and you call this the marketplace, and it's all built out like a ranch, and yet it's so industrial, and it's not, and yet where the ranch people live, there is no consideration for the ranch people. So I thought this sounded like a good idea. My concerns are that once you allow this corner to become commercial, and Angela's a new owner there, what about the people that have lived there for a long time? Obviously, they would want to, may want to, I don't say obviously, they may want to sell their property as commercial. And then we could end up with a 7-Eleven, a AM/PM, and another place. But I really just want you to please, please try to protect our ruralness in that corridor with the housing that's coming in there. You know, it doesn't seem to make any sense to put 500 homes in that section, and the houses on Las Ritas, as Mark is saying. If you want to do something for the rural people and put something nice there that's going to complement the rural thing, but you got to balance it. The whole thing is all about balance, and we seem to be way off balance right now, and so it's a tricky job. My hat's off to you. So I don't know how you're going to do it, but I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but please consider the rural aspect and the people that lived there before any of these buildings came in, and that we have a voice, although it's not very few, not very many.
Ms. Taylor,
it has
that
a
is your
voice.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ricky Reyes?
Thank you for hearing me. I live just south of that property. There, Perrine is the street that goes to the south of the property. We saw a picture of it. Goes south. Warm Springs turns to the left there. We're right at the end of that Warm Springs where it dead ends into French Valley. I live on French Valley. Just one property set behind where this was taken. So actually 2 properties behind this. I have 2.5 acres. We've been there for about 12 years. And we've seen the blight there, and it's terrible. I would like to see something there. I'm pro-growth. My wife and my daughters are not. But I like Mark was saying, I'm kind of for it, but yet I'm concerned about it too. From our back porch, we have a large back porch, and we can see that property from our back porch. If we're sitting on our back porch, we're not going to see that property. We can't see the mountains behind it. This place, they're not facing it. They're facing nice. The property right across the street from this one, of Perrine, it's set up on a little bluff. People just purchased the property just recently, and they set up on a little bluff there, and their house faces north. And so they would see that shopping center, and then, of course, the new school across Scott Road and that. So it completely changes the atmosphere there for them. I know that for sure. For us, it's changing it as well. So those are the concerns I have. One concern, or one positive thing with this, and then I'm going to jump back to a negative. One positive thing, and you were talking about a bridle path across the front of that property. And that sounds wonderful. That was a concern. Ed and Donna were concerned about riding through there. I know they were neighbors of ours, and they were concerned about that. So something like that would be nice. Also, would it be a model, and I know that it's planned to widen Leon Road 4 lanes eventually, so I know there's a plan there. Would that be a model for the bridle trail down the road, and could that serve as that? That's just a question there. So maybe with some kind of, with that as a model there, that would be a good opportunity. Another thing is the red line, the blue line that goes through there. It actually has a name. It's Warm Springs Creek. It goes across this property here and goes down just to the west of where I live. It's a pretty little place. We hear coyotes down there. We see them down there. We see wildlife down there. Concern of a blacktop, and it just gathers gas and oil and all that stuff. And sure, you'll do a
Mr.
storm drain
Reyes,
under
that
it.
is your time.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
All right.
No further speakers, sir.
Okay.
Pollution.
There you go. Does the commission have any comments or questions for Ms. Little?
I do have a question. On the west side of the property, your buildings 2, 3, and 4, are those going to be two-story buildings or single-story?
They're all single-story buildings. Jim, the tallest one is 18 feet, is that correct?
Actually, the anchor one probably was up around maybe like about 30 feet.
I'm talking about the plate. So your question is whether or not it's a single story.
Yeah,
So that
no,
the anchor
I'll
one,
do it
the ceiling plate would be at about 18 feet, so there would be a nice lofty feeling inside the building. But then, of course, the parapet wall on the front of the building would be quite a bit higher because of the barn-style architecture.
Yeah, well, it's more of the visual impact from the rural people, so. Because if we go, I think if you go back one, I think it's the frontage, yeah, how tall the upper picture is.
So Jim was just saying that the highest peak there on that one is about 30 feet. The existing structure is closer to 25, something like that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I want to hear what Earl has to say, because he always has interesting things to say during the planning commission meetings. Come on, Earl, I'm counting on you.
Okay, I visited the property, and I had a few notes. One of them is the water quality issue on Lower Springs that runs to the north. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. To the north of the property, and that when I looked at the plans, it appears that you have not made any kind of a compensation for that natural drainage there. It looks like there is a parking lot there to the north.
Yes, sir. I don't think they bring up the site plan again, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind going to that. But yes, there on the north is in to the left of the screen that we're looking at now,
Right.
and there is a parking area and retention basin at that northern end, and the natural grade of the property slopes from south to north toward Scott Road.
Okay. I was wondering, that was the first thing that hit me, because it looks like a swamp over there in that area.
It's actually pretty level. My property is raised up.
Right.
They've graded it so that there's a kind of a pasture area now, and then it slopes down to the property line, and then there is a storm drain adjacent to Scott Road and between my property and Scott Road.
My other concern was you're putting a small veterinarian center there. And as I drove through this area, I noticed there's a lot of horses out there, and I was just wondering if you have horse trailers coming in, where are you going to put those?
That's a fantastic question, Earl. One of the things that I learned from coming to some of the Planning Commission meetings was how opposed the Planning Commission was to having big trucks and delivery trucks in the main parking areas of these centers. When I was here when Sonic did their workshop. And so when I was talking with Jim about how to lay out the site, I said, can we put a driveway on the back side of the building so that the delivery trucks can pull in on that side? So the site plan incorporates, Jim, 23 feet?
Yes, actually, it's probably going to be ending up to be about 28 feet.
28 feet between the property line and the building to allow delivery trucks to come in, and then that is also with the access where people would come in on Perrine with their horse trailers. They would make a left and then a right to come down alongside of the corral area there, and then they'd be able to unload and load horses in that area and then pull on. The design that we're using right now shows one-way access there from Perrine down to Scott with a right in and right out only on at that point on Scott Road. We'll certainly need to discuss that with your traffic engineers and make sure that that's not too close to Scott Road for a right in and right out. If it is, we still have access on Leon and Perrine. And right now, the existing parcel map prohibits any access on Scott Road, so I have no access on Scott Road at this time, nor does the neighbor to the west. And I appreciated Lisa's advice about getting together with the adjacent property owner to do a shared driveway. However, neither of us have access on Scott Road at this time. They would not rely on access on Scott Road, nor do I.
Okay. My last concern was your property appears to be less than like 100 feet from the adjoining property, even with that tree line there. And my concern there was noise. Ambient noise would increase because you've got these facilities there. I would recommend that you take that in consideration when you're designing your plans.
Absolutely. I'm sure that we'll have not only light studies, but sound studies and all sorts of studies that'll be conditioned for my application, and whatever sort of sound mitigation that we need to do in the form of a block wall or whatever it is that we need to do there. I totally understand, because they've had what is essentially it is a vacant home there for a long time, and whatever sound is created at the site is going to impact them. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, and let's see. You're going to put an actual restaurant in there, not a fast food place?
Correct. That if you can go back to the PowerPoint, Lisa, I'll put up some of the features of the center again, but the vision there is to put in a 3-meal bar and grill sort of restaurant. So it would be open for breakfast, and people come down and have breakfast together, breakfast meetings, and all the way through after school and into dinner time and drinks with friends. So just to address that issue quickly, yes, I will be applying for a conditional use permit for the restaurant and for beer and wine sales for off-site consumption from the small market.
All right, thank you.
On the restaurant, can we highly encourage a non-commercialized restaurant?
Absolutely.
A mom and pa?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. We're not going to prioritize franchises like Applebee's or things like that. I would love it if we could find something that's more like a traditional American diner to come in there. I think that would fit very well with the theme of the center.
Okay,
I guess I'll go next on that note then.
what's that?
I guess I can go next with my comments.
No, go ahead.
Please.
My initial thoughts was no. I love the rural aspect. I'm actually quite jealous that I don't live like that. I do live on a 10,000 square foot lot, and that's why I bought the house I did. So I'm quite jealous of the people who have acreage. I'm very protective of our rural community.
Absolutely.
So my initial thought was no, I'm not going to allow that. But then as I read through it and I saw it, I love the architecture. I love the rural theme. I love the corral. So it kind of grown on me. And then I did some more investigation and digging into it, and I know the future for Scott Road. I know the future for Leon Road. And it's going to be a huge north-south movement between the cities. So, and knowing that the city of Menifee only controls this one corner, the other ones are Murrieta and the county, this is kind of our chance to set the tone of, hey, this is what we want here. Don't go and build me some tilt-up concrete walls. So kind of like a lot of the residents of, I'm for it, but really, really hesitant. Just not the biggest fan of taking away 2 acreage units. Because, I look at it as, at the end of the presentation, the explanation of a slow response times. People move to rural knowing that. And to me, it's not really a justification. It's kind of, you buy and you live out there because of that. You live out there knowing gas stations and retail aren't close because that's what you want. I'm not a big fan of access off Scott Road. I prefer just for rear, traffic accident purposes. Even a shared driveway, because you're only going to be about 250, 300 feet from Leon Road. So personally, I'd like to prevent any access off Scott Road.
Okay.
I know that makes it a little tough on you, but just knowing that Scott Road's going to be 55, in reality, that means 60, 70. So when people go to slow down, just a little minor thing. I really like how you tuck the gas station in the back corner, so it's not visible.
Okay,
I love how the gas station is only 2 pumps, so it's not going to be a huge draw for gas. It's, oh crap, I'm almost out of gas, I need to stop right there. I mean, you're not gonna go out of your way to go to this gas station. But it's the convenience for those people. Because you got the high school coming in right there too. So there's going to be a lot of traffic, and unfortunately, I think just because of the dynamics of how things are going, with the additional housing coming to the east, there's going to be development. So unfortunately, you are going to lose a little bit of our residential, but I want to try to preserve as much as I can.
absolutely.
I would like to see a little bit more than a 20-foot offset on the west side, just to protect that homeowner a little bit. And one thing that I think would be nice is between buildings 2 and 3 for trailer access. Because you got the corral there and you've got a veterinary there, and if you sell someone who serves feed and hay and grains and all that, that they could pull into that driveway off of, is it Perrine? Perrine? And do a loop, with their big trailers. I think this should be I don't think it's a commercial trailer, but it's a guy with his horses, his flatbed, who can pull up, throw some feed on the back, and keep going without having to make tight turns through a parking lot. So if you can do an access from the road, kind of move 2 down, split 3 up a little bit, and kind of, create an easy loop for a big trailer to transport through.
Okay, well, thank you for that. The loop would be through the parking lot at this point if we took away the Scott Road access, because as we mentioned earlier, the truck access is going to be from Perrine down across that backside of the center. Horse trailers, delivery trucks, whatever it is, loading and unloading, and then they would just go right on out Scott Road and make a right turn to get on out of the center.
Right. So, like I said, my initial thoughts were no, just to protect the rural.
But I like it that I'm growing on you.
I know.
Or this
it
concept is
and
growing on
And
you.
I love the architect, the architecture of it. I love the Western feel, flipping through all the diagrams.
Thank you so much. In your packet, you have an image that was kind of, when I first started thinking about what do we want to build here, I was looking for something that was barn and stables sort of look, and that first building just sort of sparked my imagination. And then from there, we went to the idea of having, when Jim laid out the original idea, it was 4 separate buildings that were broken up more like modern centers are, because he knew that if we brought you a strip mall, everybody would hate it, you would hate it, everybody in the room would hate it. And so we tried to break it up, and but because of the flow and the way that because the delivery trucks would be off in the parking lot, we said, let's take that back to having things more consolidated with an access on the back side. So the idea of it, when you look at this from Leon, is that there's more of a home-looking structure in the front. So the idea is to mimic a small ranch, with the home in the front, a barn with a hayloft and horse facilities immediately behind the home, and then shops and gasoline and that sort of stuff in the rearmost part of the property. So. I've lived a rural lifestyle my whole life. I've lived in Winchester forever, so I love this way of life. I think this is it's a high traffic corner that would be a tough sell for a custom home, because anybody who would want to send custom home dollars is not going to want to put up with the Scott and Leon intersection traffic noise. And
right, and that's one of my hardest fields, that in 10, 20 years, knowing how big Scott Road's going to be, how, Leon's going the 4 lanes. Some guy's not going to go throw up a 4,000 square foot, nice, I don't want to say mansion, but nice rural house, because you're going to hear the roars of the cars.
exactly, which is why my alternative is to deconstruct what's there back to a barn and a garage and put in a mobile home and wait, until, the time is right. If you all decide that the time is not right now.
Go ahead, I'll go last. Go ahead, Randy.
I agree with Mark. My question is, what are the hours of operation of the 3 businesses?
That's a great question. We have not pre-leased any tenants yet. We're obviously at a very early stage here with the workshop. We still need to get past this whole idea of zoning and the general plan and a conditional use permit. My preferred hours would, that people would, wrap it up at the restaurant, sometime before 11 o'clock. Because I'm a big fan of the dark night sky. We want to try to get things dark out there as early as possible. Being sensitive to the Mount Palomar Observatory. Light pollution is a very serious concern when you put in a commercial center in a very dark area like it is now. The sodium streetlight that's at Scott and Leon right now barely shines. It's a very, very dark out there. And I'm already doing some research as to how we can maybe put LED lights in the trees as opposed to traditional overhead lamp posts. And Jim was pointing out to me that the police department's going to insist that there be some degree of lighting out there that might be brighter than what I would want to have. But we'll play push-pull with that as we need to.
So of the 3 speakers, 2 of them you can work with, and the first one was adamant against it. How could you please that resident of 19 years?
Plus you have 2 opposed letters.
Correct. There are. I got a chance to.
How could you please them?
How can I please them? I'm not certain. That's a great question.
I like the light. The lighting was was one of my questions. You addressed that, so that's big. View obstruction. You addressed that with the 30-foot. And that house is an eyesore that's out there now. So that's just my concern. If you can work together with the.
Absolutely. Anytime you introduce a dramatically different use in a neighborhood, it's not going to feel good, in concept. I totally get that. I know when Walmart came to Hemet, the neighboring community to the south was fit to be tied. I mean, they were out picketing and speaking at public meetings about how they didn't want Walmart next to them. Well, those same people walk across the street to get their ice and services at Walmart now. I mean, that's just what happens. So.
Yeah, I see the convenience too.
Say that again?
I see the convenience to the residents, but.
Yeah, it's not an easy sell. I don't claim to think that this is a slam dunk for any of us. The question is this the right location? Is this the right theme and style to protect what is a rural area? The nature of the presentation that I gave at the beginning was the idea that I want for Menifee to put a stake in the sand and say, this area will stay rural. Despite the fact that this is going to be a signalized intersection and there's going to be tens of thousands of people rolling through here, this is going to stay a rural area. Lisa Sobek made a great point when she was out at the site with us a couple weeks ago, that people love traveling that Scott Road corridor for the rural feel of that area. And that is something to be preserved, it's something to be protected. Riverside County and Menifee and Murrieta have backed up their rural residential zonings, the 2-acre minimums, 2.5-acre minimums, 5-acre minimums, all up together, and that is a very special area. I would never ever want to put a bright white and royal blue AM/PM there, or something that would be completely out of character with the neighborhood. I rolled up there the other day, and just it's a wonderful time of the year to see the grass is just starting to sprout and the goats playing in the field right across the way. I would definitely not want to do anything to start sprawling something that is not a compatible element.
Are you going to have living quarters in that complex?
None whatsoever in the current design. As I understand it, that's against your city ordinances, is to have any sort of dwelling units within commercial centers. But no, there's no intent whatsoever to do that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we can carve out some office space, but not living space.
What position or role are you going to take in this if you build it and it's operational?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the beginning.
What role would you take or position if this is approved and operational, when the operation?
That's a great question. I wanted to make that point. When I heard people talking, I was sitting over here thinking, I am not here to just get the entitlements and run. I want to build this center. I think this is, the more I think about it, the more I talk with Marnie and Ken about the possible tenants and the income possibilities here, and just the idea of being able to drive down the road, for not only for me, but for my kids and generations to come, saying, that's something that I built, that's something that I brought to this area, is something that's very attractive to me. I'm very, very interested in moving forward with this project.
Can I encourage a workshop with the neighbors? Even though it might be a complete disaster, and you get yelled at the whole time, at least you tried.
I would love to meet the neighbors, and I hang my head in shame that I have actually not met them yet. I've been out on the site, baiting weeds and trimming trees and stuff, and I've met the people that work for them, taking care of their property, and they've met tree guys that I've had come to the property, but unfortunately, we just haven't met up. They keep a lock on their gate, and I have not tried to toss a rock with a note in it from my side yet. So I look forward to meeting them. They've got a gorgeous property, and I respect what they've done there.
I have a technical question. I actually know the property owner to the immediate west. I was just over there last night, actually, and she's definitely opposed to it. But
Yeah.
a technical question is, there's a blue line going through her property. Does it turn, is there any, have you investigated what the mitigation and costs and efforts would have to be if that blue line, does it touch your property? Does it go through it?
It does not. It's several hundred feet into the neighbor's property.
Neighbors, okay.
One of the considerations was the possibility of approaching them and seeing if we wanted to do this together. But I think it would be the intensity of a 12-acre center as opposed to a 5-acre center would be too much. And they have a blue line stream running through their property.
Your cost to mitigate that would prohibit any kind of development on there.
Exactly. So I am very much in favor of giving them a variance if they wanted to sell feed or other things there adjacent to my center. Any sort of compatible business usage would be, a thrill to me if they wanted to cooperate and have some sort of home-based business there for themselves. But yes, anything that I could do to possibly meet them and see what we can do to help mitigate the impacts on them, including, like I said, sound walls. We can plant stuff on the back walls. Jim has incorporated trellises into the backside of the property, so it's not an ugly-looking backside of the building. The southern end, where the backside of the market would be and the side of the corral, it's our hope to do kind of an ode to wine country and have grapes and growing on the trellises.
Okay,
and
we're running out of time here. Any
yes.
more comments? And I wanted to give a couple comments. Okay. Knowing that like you say, it's going to be a 6-lane on Scott and a 4-lane on Leon eventually. Something from my experience in planning is something will happen on that corner. I don't really think now is the time. The reason I say that is we went through the same issue when we did the general plan, and we had, I think it was called policy area, was it 1040? Is that what it was over by Wally's place? That everything from like approximately Ziders up Scott heading towards Bundy, they wanted to make a lot of that commercial for the very same reason. But we opposed it and we did not allow it. And the main reason was we wanted to protect the rural area. And what happens is there is a domino effect. If we entitle you, the guy on the corner with the goats, which I've been in the area 20 years, so I exactly understand. You lived in Winchester. I moved here for the same reason you did. They will feel entitled and obviously financially motivated to re-entitle their property, and it will domino. And that's how we lose rural areas. Now, to see both sides of it, I just went to a meeting the other night up on Leon, just north. That's all county property, and they want to put a 500-unit subdivision across from the high school.
I was there
which is like putting a sore thumb in the middle of a beautiful field of flowers. It just does not belong. And
your lipstick on a pig comment was just
thank you.
Fabulous.
Thank
I
you.
loved it.
So I'm fighting that, and my role is to have, like we talked, a balance in this area. And unfortunately, every development that comes into us says, I'm the exception, and you need to allow us because of such. And so I think eventually, to be fair to you, something's gonna happen to this property 10, 20 years from now. But at the rate of development and things, I don't think now is necessarily the time. I really fear that it would have an adverse effect on the neighbors in the rural area, and I want to protect the rural area viciously, which I think you understand. So the whole issue of the policy area 1040, I think, is the same issue here. My other concern is, I think you have good intentions, and I like your designs. I like your desire to architecturally fit into the area, and I think when it is developed, I would like someone like you to do it. But the reality is, as a commission, is that we cannot guarantee that you will be the ultimate developer. Things could happen. It could be sold not by your own intention. But then if we entitle this to gas station or commercial, and someone comes in and says, we have a right to put an AM/PM here now because you entitled it that way, we can't protect it from that. That is my other concern. The other concern is when the high school goes in, I don't necessarily want to draw kids from the high school over to this side. I know they're going in and they're driving in, but if we put it over there, everyone knows any kind of a store near a high school has problems. So that's not sorry. Now, I grew up in part of Orange County, up in the hills, where we had a place called Bob and Jean's. And then it was Chapman Avenue and what was Newport up there. And it was a little place like this, a little more run down. But we loved riding our horses there. So I understand the concept, and I think eventually, again, there will be a place for that, but I don't want to draw all the people over to that corner right now. As far as putting a horse vet in there, we have horses, grew up with horses. Every horse vet that I've known that is still in business now has to have property to not just one corral, you have to have a lot of corrals. So I think what would end up there is, if you did talking a vet coming, it would be a small animal. It wouldn't work with a horse vet in that area. It takes too much acreage for a horse vet. So I don't think the whole horse vet thing is really going to happen. And while you do have intentions of developing it, and again, I think you would do a quality job, unfortunately, the market may not allow you. I'm not sure if this would all pencil out. I don't know if you've run the financials on this or not, but with what is required in development nowadays, it is very costly, and I don't know if at this point the rental income would justify it. Now, it's not my job to do your financials, but I would not want to entitle it and then it sit there. So at this point, I would have to say, put it on the back burner for now. If you probably know the plan, but on the corner of Winchester and Scott, that's all going to be commercial. We know what's going in there, so there's going to be a lot of commercial there as far as people needing stores and things. So I admire what you're trying to do. I would unfortunately oppose it at this time. Buy the property, put a home on it. If you could improve that home, it would be great. There's nothing but vagrants and problems in that property right now. I would encourage you to put it on hold, and I don't think it's right for the city for the reasons I said at this time. So,
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
I agree with everything he just said. If you want to speak, you have to give a slip, but we're out of time for this workshop anyway, Randy. So, Randy.
You know what? This is the immediate neighbor, can we extend this for a few minutes to hear? Yeah, let's go ahead and extend this for 10 more minutes. If you want to speak, go ahead and give your speaker slip here, or at least talk, and then afterwards give them the speaker slip. I'd rather hear from everyone. And if you decide to go forward, I'm only one vote. We have two, whatever. But if you decide to propose it, I would suggest you have a workshop with the neighbors and go through all that before you expend any more money. I really would.
I appreciate that advice, and I appreciate everybody's time to look at the package and to come up with intelligent questions. Earl, you always manage to go out and visit the site. That's one of the things I enjoy about your perspective on the Planning Commission, and I really appreciate you doing that. And I understand there's some more people that want to speak, so I will vacate the podium and let them do that. Thank you again.
And I thank you for having the wisdom to do a workshop. You would be surprised how many people come to us with not so good projects and spend a lot of money. That was very wise of you.
We received that encouragement from Bob and Lisa, and this is because it is such a big change. I think it definitely warrants a workshop and a lot of thought. So thank you again for your time.
Okay, so we can get our public speakers, please.
David Booth.
And while Mr. Booth is coming up, I just want to point something out to our applicant, that we did 3 meetings on marijuana cultivation, and we had a total of maybe 4 people attend all of those meetings. You want to put a gas station in the middle of a ranch neighborhood and look at the room. So that should tell you something about how strongly people feel about this issue. And we get this feedback from the community that nobody wants anybody to do anything. They want everybody to own the property, and then they don't want anybody to do anything with it. And that's a very frustrating thing for people to understand. Is that we want the big open fields. You own property, but please don't ever build on it. And I feel your pain that you've got 3.88 acres in a place with 2-acre zoning.
Oh,
What do
yeah,
you-
no, I would not want to subdivide it.
Right, and so what do you do with it besides commercially? Put one giant house on there? Do you break it up into 2 properties? I don't know, but I think what Chair Thomas said about let's wait until the high school goes in to see what happens to the area, and I think once that happens, 5, 8 years down the road, maybe revisiting this. But right now, I can't imagine. The people who live out there aren't saying, oh, man, I've been just dying for a gas station on this corner for so long. You know, it reminds me of the phrase you hear in Western movies, people going into town for supplies, right? They go into town for supplies, and then they go home away from town. That's why they don't live in town. And, you know, the intersection of the freeway over at Scott Road and 215 is, you know, what? How far is that? 5 miles? 2 miles? 3 miles?
3 miles.
It's almost walking distance. So, well, saying that we want the tax revenue from a veterinarian is not really a huge push for me. So,
perfectly see
my
that.
point is that the value, we have so few areas with large rural. There's about 2 sections of the city that have it. Let me tell you this. Last week, we were here doing a workshop of a guy who wants to put a market in a Quail Valley. If this project was there, we'd be asking you when you could get started. Okay? It's a beautiful, I think everybody here agrees that it's a beautiful project. I just think in that location, I can't envision a scenario where I would say yes to that. So maybe when somebody else rotates into this chair, you'll have better luck. But at this point, I can't envision it.
Well, thank you for your comments on that. Go right ahead. I didn't mean to
Go ahead
step
and
on.
pull our public speakers so we can,
Okay. I just wanted to mention that I was here for that workshop with the guy, and you all did you were also gracious and to him and the guy who's going to open that market in Quail Valley, and I hope he gets all your support.
yes, who do we have?
It was David Booth.
David, Mr. Booth?
Yeah, I'm David Booth. I live in the property just south of this proposed development. So I live across Perrine Street from this center. I bought the property less than 2 years ago. I had no idea anything like this was going to happen in that area. I have 2 young kids. We've got horses and goats, and my 6-year-old son and myself ride bicycles up and down Perrine Street on the dirt road. We moved out there to live in the country, not to live next to a gas station. So I'm totally against this plan. I think I have other neighbors that want to talk, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time, but I just want to let everybody know I moved there to live on a dirt road.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Dennis Tian, I think the last name is.
Thank you. My name is Dennis Tuffman. I was curious because the commissioners referred to understanding what's going to happen in the future. This project, how would it fit together with the safety of that intersection, or making that intersection safe, or making it a little bit less prone to flooding? I know there's been terrible accidents there, and I know there's some kind of plan for Scott Road, but on the way over here tonight, it took a long time to come through the intersection. How is your planning function integrated with the improvement of the conditions over there?
Okay, take that into consideration. Thank you.
Sarah Reyes.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak. I just wanted to reiterate that it sounds like this is going in the direction I would want it to go, but I am in full opposition to this. I've been living at the property down Perrine, my father spoke earlier, for over a decade now, and I used to ride my horse past that property all the time. My sister and I would always say when we drive past it, The building before, when it was actually kind of being taken care of, is a beautiful building. Now it's no longer because neglect. But we always said it would be amazing if someone would come and fix up this property and make a beautiful home. It would be such a beautiful location. And we never thought, oh yeah, we want someone coming in and put, forest green shutters on a whitewashed wall for a gas station. That's not what we were looking for. So we wanted someone to come and live and cultivate that land and make it their own and make it their own home, because that's where we are. We live on property, around people with property, with homes that we like to see grow and see their horses and see their animals. We don't want to see a gas station and other commercial buildings go in that area. Another thing too, real quick, I just wanted to say, Perrine is the only road to access the homes that are down Perrine. So when you come onto Scott, you turn right onto Perrine, and that's the only access to my home, which is at the end of Perrine. So along with other people's houses. So when construction, if this happens, hopefully it will not for a good long while, but that's going to be a nightmare, because it's already been a nightmare in past events when they have fixed up that road. Getting out was truly terrible. Also, our mailboxes are on that road, so I don't know what we're going to do with that, because that's a safety issue, first of all. So basically, I just wanted to say that I am in full opposition, and it doesn't make any sense to me to put in a commercial building there when it could be such a beautiful home and property. So thank you very much.
Leanna Reyes?
Hearing from all the Reyeses, I'm sorry. We've lived there for a long time, so we're just very concerned about that land that's there. She talked about just beautifying the place. I'm going to talk about the gas station. We have 2 gas stations down the road and a vet that's less than 3 miles. If you go the other way on Leon, we also have 2 gas stations, actually a Shell that's going up there, and a Chevron, and another vet. Why would we need another vet right there? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. And I just want to keep that place as rural as possible, because that's why we're there, and that's why we love living there. We like having our bonfires and going out at night and looking at the stars. We don't want to see lights. So that's my reasoning.
Okay, thank you.
Next speaker is Alicia. Can't read the last name if you could. Thank you.
I live right behind the property of what is being said. And if we get a gas station there, we get stuff there, my fence is on that, my fence is between that property. All drainage from Scott and Leon, all drainage water, we get flooded every year. So if they're gonna build a gas station there, if someone spills gas and it's wet, it's gonna go onto my property. I have all my critters, I have my horses, I have all my animals. If that goes on my property, that's gonna contaminate my property and damage, and possibly get my animals sick. I do not want that there. We moved out into middle of nowhere, basically, to be in the country. I have my animals, that's what I do. And the intersection is already crazy. If you build a gas station and you get all that stuff there, it's just gonna be more traffic. Plus, there's a bus stop there. It's not safe, and there's been fatalities through there. I just don't feel that it would be a safe idea. And if you get a gas station there, there's gonna be people hanging out there. There's, we've already got the squatters and everything. But if someone was to build a home there and build a property, we won't have that. And it'll just get away from all that. We don't need any more crimes of people breaking in and getting onto properties.
And you drafted, this is one of these is your letters, correct? One of the-
I
no,
never
guess
got
you
a
didn't.
letter.
Okay, I thought one of these was yours. No, it's Mr. Watson. Okay. sorry.
I've already, even with just the empty house there, I've had people over there partying, saying they're gonna jump over the fence and jump on my horses. It's not safe. And then to have a gas station there, and you have all the lights, I mean, animals need nighttime to sleep. And to move out into the country and then have something put out there with lights and people said, we moved out to the country to be in the country. We don't want the lights. We want to be able to look at the stars. We want to be able to enjoy peace and quiet. And that intersection is so crazy anyway, to put a gas station there and with a bus stop, and what's the safety of the kids? Because that intersection's crazy. And I don't know. Just saying, I've never been to one of these meetings, so
Doing fine. Okay,
I don't agree with it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No further speakers, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and adjourn the workshop. Do we want to take a small recess or do you want to go straight into the general session? Straight in the session? Okay, we'll go ahead and do that then. And thank you, Angela, for your presentation. So let's go ahead, we'll go ahead and call to order. Well, we'll give everyone a minute to step out.
I know.
It's a development. A friend explained it to me once. It's like you throw a pebble in the water, in a lake or pond, and the rings.
Ripple, yeah.
You know, she's on the ring. There's the development. She's on this 8th ring. She's not even close to
Okay, we'll go ahead, we'll go ahead and get started. If we could quiet down, and we'll go ahead and get started with our regular session. Can we call this to order?
Commissioner Doty.
Here.
Commissioner Carwin.
Here.
Commissioner Madrid.
No.
Commissioner Phillips.
Here.
And Chair Thomas.
Here, sorry. Okay, we'll go ahead and stand for the flag salute. If we could have everyone seated or leave, please. Or stand up and participate in the flag salute. Hand on your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I don't know if we can legally close that door or not, can we? No, we can't. So we'll go ahead and leave the door open. Okay, there we go. Okay. So just before we get into the chair position, I just wanted to confirm, we are continuing item 10.1, is that correct?
Can we get somebody to go out in the lobby there and ask them to hold that meeting outside? If she's going to hold a forum. Well, she graciously offered to talk to everybody, which I appreciate her taking the opportunity to do, but doing it in the lobby is quite disruptive. Thanks, Bob.
Scared him off, huh? So are we going to continue item 10.1?
Mr. Chair, if I may, just suggest that you follow the agenda as we get to that point. I would suggest that we just go through the selection of the chair and the vice chair now, and then as we get to that, there's a couple other suggestions I may have with
Okay.
regards to the
Okay.
agenda.
So, so do we have to technically recess right now, or just discuss it?
No, at this point, I think what you can do is basically take nominations for the chair, select the chair, and then if it's a new chair, that chair can take over to select the vice chair then, run the meeting from that point.
Okay,
So open it up for nominations for the chair at this time.
And just so I'm clear, so if we do that, is that effective the next meeting or immediately? right now?
Immediately.
Okay. So we'll go ahead. Do we, can we have any discussion, or is it just nomination?
However, if you want to open up for nominations,
Okay. Does anybody want to discuss anything about this before we do nominations? Anything you want to say? No? It's not as contested as the presidential. Okay. No one has any dirt you want to throw out? No, just kidding. Okay, so I personally have enjoyed the seat as chair, but I would like to nominate Commissioner Kerwin as the new chair for the Planning Commission.
Second.
We need a roll or a voice?
It's just a nomination.
it's just nomination.
consensus of the commission.
Yeah, and are there any other
Interested in it?
I'd be more than happy to take over. I think that Chair Thomas has done a tremendous job, and if he's wants to slide off to the side, I'd be more than happy to fill in the wake.
Okay, so all in favor of that nomination?
I would just also suggest, are there any other nominations?
Okay, yeah, are there any other nominations for the chair position?
Then go, yeah, we can close the nominations, and then you can vote.
We'll close the nomination, and then we'll go ahead and take a vote on Commissioner Kerwin as the new chair of the Planning Commission.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Doty.
Yes.
Commissioner Carwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Madrid.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips. And Commissioner Thomas.
Yes. So we need, so does the chair, or can we do nominations for,
Congratulations. Now, the Chair Carwin will then open the nominations for the vice chair.
Well, thank you. As my first act as chairman, I will open the nominations for vice chair. We need a vice chair. It's an important position. Do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I've given this thought and valued everybody. But in respect of seniority, I actually like to nominate Earl as the vice chair.
I accept.
Do we have a second for Commissioner Phillips?
Any other nominations?
Any other nomination?
Any other nominations? Anybody else wish to contest Mr. Phillips' nomination? Seeing none, do we have a second for the nomination for Mr. Phillips?
Second.
No opposition? I think we can take it to a vote.
Commissioner Doty.
Yes.
Commissioner Carwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Madrid.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips. Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
We have a new supervisory board
Thank you.
of the commission. Executive committee.
If you would like to take a short break, if you want to change your positions now, that would be fine.
I got the seat all warmed up for you.
You can grab your nameplates with you
We
if
can
you'd
change-
like.
I'll change it.
Okay, oh, I can do it.
What's that?
I was saying you can grab your nameplates
Oh.
if you'd like.
What's that? Where'd he go? Is in the bathroom over there? Does he not know about that door? I think someone needs to give Commissioner Madrid a tour of City Hall. So we'll wait till he returns before we commence with the calendar.
I'm going to do it right here, make the change.
While Commissioner Madrid is out, can I ask, thank you very much. Just from a procedural standpoint, on item 11.1, is that is that going to be a reopening of a workshop, or is that an agenda item?
Well, it is an agenda item, but it's also a workshop. What?
Will we be following workshop procedure on that protocol?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
like the mayor busted his mute button.
He gets animated sometimes. I think his team lost the players.
Before public hearings. Because this we can continue. Right, so it would just be below 9.1.
All right, well, let's get started. We have, let's see, moving down our agenda for tonight, are there any modifications to the agenda for tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Oh. There's one modification I would suggest is that moving discussion item 11.1 up just prior to the public hearing items, and then we can take the public hearing items after that workshop item.
All right, I will accept that suggestion. That makes sense. So we'll move 11.1 will move up just before 10, so it'll be after item 9.1?
Correct.
All right. So we will do that. Any other modifications to the agenda?
No.
Any presentations this evening?
None.
Any general public comments, non-agenda items?
No, sir.
All right, speeding right along. Item number 8.1, approval of the meeting minutes. Do we have any objections to the minutes or any motions to approve the minutes from the previous meeting of January 13, 2016?
I move that we approve the minutes from January, what was it, 16th? 13th, I'm sorry, 2016.
Second.
A voice vote is fine.
Voice vote. So all in favor of approving the minutes from January 13, 2016?
Aye.
And they passed. The minutes are approved. Next item is 9.1 on the consent calendar to approve Resolution PC 16-249. Is there anyone on the commission who would care to open this matter up for discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, seeing no request for discussion, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The resolution PC 16249 is approved. Next up, we're moving up to the juggled item known as 11.1 in our agenda, workshop for the pre-application review number 2015-264. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. This is again, just to clarify, this is a workshop as well. And just maybe a reminder to everyone to maybe put their phones on silence if they could, or vibrate, please. Thank you.
Or turn it up.
Russell Brady is the project planner on this, and I would ask Russell to review it with the commission, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. And just to answer your previous question, this will follow the same format that we've used for, it's not a public hearing, but public input would be welcome as part of the workshop.
So we are permitted to have back and forth with the applicant on this?
Yes, that's
All right,
correct.
thank you.
Thank you, Director and Commissioners. Russell Brady presenting for staff. The pre-application review 2015-264, also called the McCall Mixed Use Development. The project is located northerly of McCall, easterly of Antelope Road, and westerly of the Medical Center, which is located approximately there. The project site is designated within the general plan as Economic Development Corridor. It is flanked by Economic Development Corridor to the east and west, with residential designations to the north and residential designations to the south, as well as commercial office to the south. The project economic development corridor is located within the McCall Boulevard sub-area, as shown kind of in the olive green color here, generally located along McCall Boulevard on either side of I-215. The planning application proposes the preliminary review of the development of retail, commercial, preschool, medical office, an assisted living facility, and 88 townhomes on approximately 19 acres located north of McCall and west of Aspel. Here's showing the original conceptual site plan provided by the applicant. As you can see here, a mix of, they have a pharmacy designated here, sit-down restaurant and drive-through restaurant along McCall, and then going northerly, some retail, the preschool, and a medical office with an assisted living care within the northern portion of the site, and then at the far northern portion of the site, 88 townhomes just southerly of what would be Chambers Road there. Staff did take an initial look at this, and we did realize that they didn't include Antelope Road, which is a designated general plan roadway, so we did inform the applicant of that. And once they had been informed of that, they did do some revision to the site plan, which incorporated Antelope Road. And to let you know here that the site plan is flipped here, so McCall Boulevard is now on your right side, and does include Antelope Road along the project's western boundary, as well as Chambers Road on the northern boundary. The site plan with this revision, they also eliminated the townhomes in the northern portion of the site and incorporated additional retail and drive-through restaurant uses in lieu of the medical office and preschool uses. In the southern portion, yes. So this revised site plan also is for the Planning Commission's consideration to provide some feedback to the applicant on their preferences, whether between the two or if there's some alternative land uses that the Commission may want to see in this area. For reference here, the McCall Boulevard sub-area, as far as what the target percentages for development within the sub-area are, you can see it is primarily commercial retail, but does have small components of residential and commercial office within the sub-area. Also, there are certain notes in the sub-area regarding this location kind of near the medical center that residential land uses as well as office and retail to support the medical center are recommended or preferred in this area. And just to kind of compare this to their site plan, the original conceptual site plan would kind of more closely mirror what these percentages are compared to their revised site plan. And so with that, staff recommends the Commission open up the workshop for discussion and take any public comments. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Before we hear from the applicant, are there any technical questions of staff that any of the Commission might have?
Yes, I had one concern. There is a drainage area to the north of this proposed site that serves as a natural drainage for that whole surrounding area. And when I looked at these plans, I did not see, I may have missed it, any kind of mitigation or awareness that you're going to do something about that particular area. I am grateful that you get rid of those houses, those townhomes.
Commissioner Phillips, let's right now we're looking for questions of staff, and then we can address the applicant after the presentation. Do you have any questions of staff on the presentation?
No, I don't.
I do have one. I wasn't sure from reading this, and maybe I just missed it. The proposed plan that's before us that we're workshopping, does that require any rezoning of the property, or is it compliant with zoning?
Since I'm not aware of what the existing zoning is. I think it's scenic highway commercial, but since it is within the EDC designation, we would require a change of zone to the newly adopted EDC zone to apply the permitted land uses and development standards of that zone.
And does this proposed project comply with the new zoning standards?
There really isn't any detail provided in the plan. You can see it's fairly just rough, plotting of the buildings. And additionally, the part is primarily for the Planning Commission to have a workshop to look at the project. We don't really, as staff, digest it and really go over it with a fine-tooth comb.
It's not, I mean, it's not like they're proposing a giant apartment complex here that's non-compliant with EDC. Just the smell test is that it falls within EDC.
Generally, yes.
Okay. Seeing no other comments from, questions of staff at this point, would the applicant care to make a presentation?
Good evening. I'm David Ritchie with Pacific Land Holdings. And we're excited to tell you about our plan off of McCall. The initial plan did call for townhomes, but we have since moved away from that. When we've seen the growth along McCall and the extension of McCall, as well as the large number of surrounding housing tracts. And when we learned about the Antelope Road that would be running along our property, connecting with McCall, a 4-lane road, we really were excited, and we think that with the thought being there that we could provide more neighborhood commercial. So at that point, we switched our proposal to the latter plan, which you've seen there. And the goal for this project would be to bring in an anchor store, an anchor grocery. We have received some feedback from the city that several restaurants are looking to locate in Menifee, and we have designated a spot there for a restaurant. And behind it, we have the blue building there is an assisted living facility, and it's 136,000 square feet. And what we're looking to do there is develop a facility that's a combination of assisted living with some memory care. So really, the goal here is a neighborhood center. We think with additional tracks going in, and the fact that our site is close to the freeway, this would be a good destination site. And we have surveyed some of the assisted living facilities in the area, and we see that their occupancy rates are quite high. And as a result, we see a demand for an additional facility.
Question on that. Most assisted living places have to have a certain volume to be profitable. Are you looking at a 2-3 story? What are you looking at here?
Great question. We're finding that typically the number, the threshold that's going to make a assisted living facility profitable, you're looking anywhere between 100 to 133 units. Our goal is to design a project that is completely consistent with the general plan and the height restrictions. We believe that we can get what we're looking for with 2 stories here.
Okay, good.
Anything else you want to add to your presentation?
Well, the other thing I should add is that the assisted living building, one thing we wanted to do was we added room for a 10,000 square foot community room. Typically assisted living facilities have larger rooms where, in the evening you can have things like plays or movies, but our architect has designed it such that that room can be opened up and be made available to the community.
So this blue building that you've got here conceptually includes a 10,000 square foot room inside?
That's correct.
That is a humongous building.
All total, 136,000 square feet, yes.
And you have enough parking with this schematic?
That was exactly my question.
Exactly. We've looked at the parking requirements, and fortunately, we've got an architect here that's designed several assisted living facilities. We'll certainly make sure it meets the requirements.
I don't think they have the same parking requirements of regular retails, but everything looks I'm personally for it. I think we need to have more of these facilities. I'm glad you're located next to a hospital, which is, I would kind of envision that as the medical area of
Absolutely.
our town. So and it is the place for this type of facility. So I
Great.
would love to maybe see, have you considered more medical offices and things rather than the retail?
You know, we have looked at the possibility of more medical offices there. To be honest with you, we've gone out and we've walked the hospital. I've had the opportunity to talk with some folks that work there at the hospital. I know that the hospital census is down as the result of the new Loma Linda University Hospital, as well as with the new Kaiser Hospital that's going to be going in. So the concern there is there might be some reduced demand on the part of doctors. And the other thought is that the hospital has excess acreage right now. So if they wanted to go in and add those buildings, they certainly could.
Okay.
Commissioner Doty, did you have a question of the applicant?
I just want to make comments on that.
Well, let me ask this, since you look like you've reached the end of your prepared presentation, do we
Yes.
have any public speakers on this workshop topic? All right, well, why don't we hear from the public first, and then we can address the questions.
Stephen Robillard.
Hi, I'm Stephen Robillard with Keller Williams Realty. My team specializes in vacant land sales, and we happen to be just getting the sellers contacted us. I don't know if you could go to the overview map of the property. Yeah, so right there, just to the east of there, there's a 10-acre parcel adjacent to this parcel. Our sellers just contacted us. We're here on behalf of the seller. We wanted to put our support for commercial use for the property next door, and we're just here in support of this project going on. And I don't know if I can ask a question, but I know that he's doing the commercial retail of the area. Is that going to be the new direction that we're taking in this area, or is a residential use, high-density residential use, something that could still be possible for the adjacent property?
If that's all EDC, even the hospital, all that's in the EDC, right? Yeah. So I would discourage, it's highly discouraged.
Okay.
Yeah, the focus on that is economic development with some adjacent housing. But as far as a house, if you came to us with a housing project for that area, you're not going to get a lot of sympathy there because it's EDC.
Okay, great. That's my questions. Thank you.
You bet. Any other public speakers?
Bill Zimmerman.
Good evening, Commissioners. One of the things that, I'm a former planning commissioner here, and we oftentimes talked about what is the makeup of EDC, and we really wanted to see it be something where you could work, live, play, and so this kind of addresses that. Can we go to the slide that's the site plan? Not that one, the new one. There we go. I like that you have reciprocal access to the hospital, but I'm thinking about in the blue area where you've got some seniors, you got 100 and something seniors, those are going to be the customers for this place. And I would imagine that they would appreciate if those brown anchor buildings were not all connected together but allowed a pathway of access, and also maybe included some kind of plaza or seating area for people to gather. Those seniors are going to want to walk to the restaurants and things, and I would imagine that we'd want to encourage them to have a safe access through there. So that would be my only concern.
Coffee house would be wonderful there, and I'm glad former Commissioner Zimmerman brought up, in all of our retail outlets, we encourage open space seating and communal areas. That's a very important aspect.
Just this morning,
Could you step to the podium, please? Thank you.
We need to get your voice on the recording. That's
Okay. Thank you for that input. And one thing I have here, and I can provide you with a copy, is just this morning we began talks with a charter preschool that is interested in locating within this shopping center. And as we took that drawing there and we modified it ever so slightly to.
On the little reader there, that thing, just put it underneath that. There you go.
Oh, terrific. We modified it ever so slightly to add a preschool, and you'll also see that this should provide for some additional access from the assisted living facility. And just to stress, yeah, your comments there, duly noted. We will make sure that there are easy pedestrian access routes to that center.
Any other public speakers?
No, sir.
All right, so I guess we'll turn to the commission for comments. Commissioner Doty?
I definitely like the upgrade of the removal of the townhomes. Wasn't a big fan of the townhomes with the hospital and assisted living right there, so that was a good upgrade. I would like to see, my vision of that area is a medical area with the capitalizing on the hospital aspect. Love the assisted living and memory care area. That's a great spot for that. And even if, I guess the retail and the shops is what a little questionable of. I think of the idea of Antelope being a 4-lane road seems great, but I don't think you're really going to get that much foot traffic. There's 2 big shopping centers also proposed just on the other side of the mountain at McCall and Menifee Road. And then there's multiple other shopping centers at Lindenberg and Simpson. So there's going to be quite a bit of retail in that area. But I like the aspect of capitalizing on the medical industry in that area with the not stores, but offices, medical offices. And like you said, I can totally understand where the hospital has that vacant land that they could expand into, and Loma Linda and Kaiser. So I fully understand that concern. I like the food aspects because as great as hospital food is, that when you stay in hospitals for a while, it's kind of nice to go across the street and get some stuff. And even, I like the aspect of, you go to pick up grandma and grandpa at the assisted living. It's kind of nice to go somewhere with them. And at the same time, I would like to see a little bit of a play area at the assisted living, just because when we went and with my wife's grandparents, we got really bored sitting there. I mean, grandpa didn't talk much, so my little 2-year-old would get a little antsy. So a little open space outdoors would be nice. Drop center, player. Yeah, all in all, great idea. I like it. Love the assisted living, and even like I don't even know if they even call it a little bit less than assisted living areas. If you want to put another building in there that almost like a 55+ area or maybe like a 75+ area kind of thing where it's a lighter assisted living. But that's definitely the theme that I see going in right there, capitalizing on the hospital. So I think you're definitely in the right path on that.
Let me piggyback on that a little bit. Commissioner Doty mentioned something about saturation. I don't think anybody in this city is going to see this project and say, oh, thank goodness, more drive-through fast food restaurants. That's exactly what we need. If you look, the one thing that Menifee doesn't have that we're missing are professional offices for professional buildings. There just aren't any. There's the Rancon building, and these buildings right here on Hahn have some office space. That's it. So if there's any opportunity for people to come in and use an office space for professional services, remember, there's going to be a courthouse coming in here. And when that happens, we're going to need court reporters, we're going to need copy services, we're going to need all that other stuff. So that might be another way to maximize this property and give it something unique that you're not going to get oversaturated with, something to consider. And also, it's not a huge build-out issue because they're just office spaces. So that's something to consider. And then the other comment I wanted to make was with the expansion of Antelope and on this McCall, I'd encourage a traffic study on whether or not there's going to be a signal necessary for either of these openings onto McCall Boulevard. That seemed like you're absolutely going to need that and factoring that in. Other comments? Commissioner Madrid?
Yes, I see 3 products, And I would think users would be two, the visitors and the residents of the assisted living. And then I see outside coming in. That kind of doesn't make sense to me. So that's, I mean, I agree, I'd like to see them have an alternative to hospital food, but I just don't get it. I don't get the fast food part. I see three sections. It's almost like you could eliminate that side, but that's just how I see.
If you could get that mom and pop restaurant from the other workshop that was provided and put them in here, that'd be fantastic.
I know you had, you know, you're looking at this economically too, but I'd almost like to see you double that assisted living, but.
Yeah, I could piggyback on that. I could see one drive-through, one restaurant, benefiting. I think 4 might be a little much. But like he said, you could double that assisted living bill. You could throw another one of those down. And I wouldn't really complain.
Just, if I may, just a reminder again, this is the EDC zone as well, so the assisted living is maybe
borderline
counter-
residential.
Yeah, counter to, I'm just bringing it up as a point to keep in mind.
Right. Commissioner Thomas?
I appreciate Bob's comment. I think it's true. Yeah, but however, this was kind of our medical focus, so I'm glad to see the assisted living there. I don't want to double it, but I'm glad it's there. It kind of gets interesting where your commercial childcare approached you. We just had a project the other day where they said there is no market, which I disagreed with, and this proves my point. So there is a market for this childcare. They just didn't want it there. So I'm glad to see that. I think that would be a good option there. Obviously, you have to balance the retail with, you got to pay for the project, and that's how it does. So I personally am happy to see a small retail right there. I think that's appropriate. And with all the housing going in, I don't think you're going to have a problem with Fleming Ranch going in behind it. You're going to have McCall. I don't know the timing, but I would rather see a sit-down type of a restaurant. I know you need freeway access for that. But again, rather than the drive-throughs, but again, the market will drive that. But I personally am in favor of it. So, and with the communal little area in there, that anything that goes in EDC, we're looking for that. Okay, so talk to staff about that.
Commissioner Phillips?
My only concern was the water issue there. I'm in that age group where I'm going to be needing your facility, so I'm all for it.
Any other comments from the commission that we left out? I think what we're hearing is that we really like the idea of your project, and coming and getting that kind of preliminary stamp of approval for a go-ahead. You've got some guidelines here, the benefit of the bench commissioner, the sixth man, if you will, coming in, making an excellent point, maybe a pass-through walkway or something like that would be awfully nice. But yeah, I think this is a good idea. It's well received, and I think once you work out the details with staff and putting together a project, I think you're on the right path. So thanks for bringing this to us, and we look forward to seeing what you come up with. All right. All right, well, let's close that workshop. Bit of a broken binder here. All right, now we'll move on to the public hearing section of the agenda. We have public hearing item number 10.1.
Yes,
Mr. Brady?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. This afternoon, we did receive a request from the applicant to continue this item to the meeting of February 24th, 2016. What we would recommend is that this would be a date certain that we would not have to renotice, of course, at that date. Staff is supportive of continuing it. And then what we would need to do is, of course, open the public hearing and continue it to that date. So with that, staff is recommending the continuance, and just recommend that you open the public hearing and continue it to the 24th.
All right,
February.
then. We'll open the public hearing at 7:54 p.m. Staring out over the sea of empty chairs, I see the community enthusiasm over this issue. Do we have any public speakers?
No, sir.
All right, we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:55.
Leave it open, leave it
We
open.
have to leave it open?
To continue to a date
To
certain,
continue it,
go
all
ahead
right.
and leave the public
Then-
hearing open.
At the risk of procedural snafu, I will reopen the public hearing at 7:55 PM. We have no public speakers, so do we need to make a motion?
Yeah, just to continue it to the meeting of the 24th and then take a vote on that, just to,
That would be February 24th.
February 24th, correct.
So do we have a motion to continue item number 10.1 to the Planning Commission meeting of February 24th, 2016?
Second.
We take a vote?
Sure. Commissioner Doty? Yes. Commissioner Madrid?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Yes.
And Chair Carwin?
Yes. All right, the motion passes. Item number 10.1 will be continued to February 24, 2016. Was notice required on this?
Yes, sir. It
Was
legally-
proper notice given?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at that point, I guess we will close the public hearing at 7:56 PM. No?
But we leave the public hearing open. We need to continue it because you've opened the public hearing. You're continuing the public hearing to the 24th. So that's the purpose of what you just did.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well then, the public
Why
may
we do
continue to
that.
talk between now and February 24th. Let's move on to the next agenda item. Item number 10.2, regarding regulations for signage. Do we have a staff report on this?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, I'm pleased to,
Did you have to open the public hearing?
Go ahead and open the public hearing.
Oh, for the other item that I closed?
No, for this particular item. This is another public hearing item, so even prior to receiving the staff report, go ahead and open the public hearing.
Oh, I see. My form has it otherwise.
don't do it that way, but that's.
So I guess we'll open the public hearing for item number 10.2, which is an amendment to the Menifee Municipal Code to establish regulations for signage. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, we do. I'm pleased to, we're moving forward with, again, with some of the code updates as had been previously doing. We're bringing this one forward at this time because with the sign regulations, we had been, again, working under the old regulations, combining some of those of the counties. There've been some requirements, legal requirements, that we need to meet and update our code as well. So that's why we've been going through this process. We've really vetted it. We've worked through it at the staff level. We've had a number of the different departments review it as well. And also working very closely with our city attorney. And I'll take this moment now to introduce Michelle Melko to the commission. And because Jeet's not here, Michelle was the one who's been working on this with the staff. And so we have the pleasure and of her being here, and we appreciate all the input that she has been able to provide to us. So, and again, all the guidance that we have received as well. So, with that, we do have a staff report. I'll ask Lisa to go through it. We have provided the proposed regulations and before you that, and again, these are consistent with other cities that are around as well. I'll have Lisa kind of go through this a little bit more, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Good evening. Lisa Gordon presenting our new sign ordinance. Since incorporation, the city has utilized Riverside County sign ordinances. There's been 3 separate sign ordinances regulating signage. The city has desired to revise the sign ordinances for some time to create standards that are more appropriate for Menifee and tailored to different uses.
Do we have a visual presentation to go with this?
Nope.
No.
All right, thank you.
The existing ordinances for signage have been problematic for a variety of reasons. The existing ordinance lacks separate categories for different uses like office, commercial, industrial. The allowed signage for commercial projects does not meet current tenant advertising needs. We almost always need to process a variance for the number of monument signs for shopping centers. That's very typical. And the existing ordinance provide little variation in the signage allowed based on the size of the business. So the signage allowed for a commercial project on 1 acre is the same as what would be allowed for a regional shopping center. So this proposed ordinance is an attempt to rectify a lot of these issues. Also, having 3 separate ordinances for signage is not considered user-friendly. It's confusing to a lot of people when they come in for the sign ordinance and they have to go 2 separate places or 3 separate places. So it would be beneficial for the planning staff and the public if all of the signage was contained in one ordinance, and that's what we've prepared. Creating a new sign ordinance is also an implementation measure of our city's general plan. One of the items was that we create a sign ordinance that would be consistent with Menifee standards as opposed to county. The draft sign ordinance, as Bob mentioned, has been reviewed by city staff, our economic development department, the city manager's office, building and safety, and the community development department staff. The city also worked with the Chamber of Commerce to develop standards that are considered fair and reasonable to the business community. We definitely took in input from the chamber, and they looked at the ordinance. The ordinance has also been thoroughly vetted with our city attorney's office to ensure that the regulations are consistent with the most current laws regarding signage. And we've looked at other sign ordinances for Murrieta, Temecula, and Paris, and our standards are pretty consistent with the rest of these cities surrounding us. The proposed ordinance is consistent with the city's general plan, including goals and policies related to signage and design. And the ordinance has been found to be exempt from CEQA. So at this time, staff recommends that we conduct the public hearing and adopt a resolution forwarding a recommendation to the council on the sign ordinance. This concludes staff presentation.
Thank you very much. Do we have any commission questions of staff, technical questions?
I have one. On what page, it doesn't have page number, section 9.76.50 prohibited signs. Item J talks about the air-blown signs, so inflatable signs, but not limited to individual balloons, balloon strings, including the air-activated, the air dancer signs. That's those guys that go like this, right?
Yep.
So you're not allowed to have those at all, or unless they're part of a sign program?
Those would not be allowed. Our sign code does allow for this flag signs that you see, and you could incorporate those into the sign
But
program.
not the little dancer guys?
As drafted, the only type of use which could use those would be an auto center type of use. And that would still require a temporary sign permit, because those are temporary in nature as opposed to permanent, to be approved by the city. But that's auto center property is the only type of use where those types of air inflatable moving signs would be permitted.
Okay, I don't know.
Or would be allowed, I guess, as drafted.
I think they're kind of cool, personally. Maybe that's the hick in me, but I think they're kind of cool. Just a thought thrown out there, but go ahead. That's it. I'm not going to die on that hill, but.
I had a question. One thing that I couldn't find accounted for, or maybe it is accounted for in here, window paint. It would seem like window paint is prohibited.
It is allowed.
Can you show me where that is? Because I was looking at section 9.76.060, subsection 8. It says interior signs not including window signs, but there's nothing in here that it would seem to indicate that painting on the window would require a permit, and that seems a little onerous.
If you look in this, I'm hoping this answers the question that you have. If you look at 9.76.060, which is the section you were talking about, and go to the very last subsection of that, which I guess would be subsection Roman numeral 17, it does mention window signs, and this would mean that window signs, so long as they complied with the standards set forth in that subsection, would be exempt from any permitting requirements.
So a window sign that covers 30% or less of the window would not require a permit?
Correct, for a commercial establishment.
I see.
And the paint would be categorized as temporary, I assume. That's how it falls under that.
This subsection here actually relates to just all of these subsections within this section are types of signs that, for which no permit is required. So there are some categories in here which relate to temporary signs specifically, but this subcategory is just window signs, period, whether they would be temporary in nature or more permanent in nature.
So the seasonal holiday paint, that would fall under this category of window sign?
Correct. Correct. As long as it was within the window of the
I'm just talking
business.
type of sign. That would be the painting on the window, people, the holiday scenes, things like that. The categorization for reviewing that would be this section of window signs.
Correct. And it would still need to be maintained with the general standards applicable to all signage, although a permit would not be required.
Not
It
even
would
a
still have to
temporary-
be,
Temporary would not have to, a temporary sign permit would not be required for painting the windows?
not so long as the overall signage, window signage, fell under the 30% window coverage standard.
So they could still do the Santa and reindeer, but just couldn't fill the window.
That would work.
Any other questions of staff?
I do have a question or comment or grammatical thing. Under 9.76.50, prohibited signs, under H, off-site commercial signs except as prohibited in section 9.7640, or the 140. 140 is for on-site, if I can read this correctly. There's permanent on-site sign standards. That's just,
It looks like that should be corrected to be 9.76.160. As you can tell, there were a few draft versions of this.
yeah, no, it's fully expected to have those, so.
So,
Because-
go ahead.
Well, because my biggest concern are the billboards on trailers that are mobile and portable that the guys drag around town.
There's a prohibition in here of that.
And that's what I was wondering. I couldn't find that anywhere.
It's under, I just read it.
That would be that same section that you were looking at, except it's subsection M.
Yeah,
Signs
there you
affixed
go.
to vehicles or trailers,
Right.
It's back, it's on this.
commonly referred to as rolling billboards.
Five, oh, the five.
Mobile billboards.
That's right, okay.
It's back here.
Backwards.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep going backwards.
What's 40?
No, I'm saying 50 is the prohibited signs.
Yeah.
Oh, 50.
Yeah.
I'm way off. Okay.
And it'd be
Six
M,
of 'em.
signs affixed to vehicles, trailers.
Yeah. See, I got to my, there, I just stopped reading. I flipped to that page.
I have a
Okay.
question on
Trailers
on
and
the approval of this. I see under administrative relief that the community development director can do as long as it's under such and such changes, but what about not a relief, but just plain application? Is it's an administrative application up to what point? And at what point does it have to come to the planning commission? Okay.
If the sign permit application fits within the criteria, it's approved by the community development director.
Okay.
If it isn't exempt from CEQA, then it comes to planning commission. Or if they need a variance, it would come to planning commission. Or on appeal, it would come to planning commission.
Okay, because I don't want to make it hard for Mimi's ice cream shop to have to go pay for a planning commission meeting and all that. So that's not the intent of us doing this.
No.
So, okay.
With regard to the current ordinances that control the sign, you said there are 2 or 3 current ordinances that control, so is approving this ordinance, does that rescind those, override those? Where's the language in there that deals with those?
We are repealing all of the other 3 ordinances.
So
It's
where,
in the
yeah, just show me the
resolution.
language where it says that it's repealing all other ordinances.
It should be in the resolution.
Section 4, I believe, states that the creation of the new municipal code, 9.76, permitting the amenity, that the ordinance, an ordinance no longer needed and therefore should be repealed as of no further force or effect.
I see, good. Okay. Any other technical questions of staff?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, I had just one question. I believe we discussed in a previous meeting the use of LED lighting and digital lighting it's sort of like a wave of the future, and I was wondering, I did not see that in here.
It is in the ordinance, the gas
170?
stations- The gas station, they are allowed the digital signs. I'll try to find it.
If you
Yes, I
look,
think it was 96.170.
yeah, if you
It
look,
kind of danced around it, and I think I was kind of looking for a little bit more specific reference to digital and LED because of the fact that they're so cost effective. I was just wondering about that.
the way that the ordinance is drafted, electronic display signs, which I believe is actually defined in the code.
170?
The very beginning section, the definition section,
Okay.
has a definition for electronic display sign, and it would mean any sign with a fixed or changing display message composed of a series of lights, but not including time and temperature displays. So the section that you referenced, 9.76.170, which concerns all electronics display signs,
Right.
would generally prohibit the construction of any new electronic display signs, with certain specific exceptions that are listed in that section, which, among other things, would include service stations, gas station signs.
Right.
So you're saying the way it's drafted now, they cannot put any new ones up?
Most people would not be able to put up new electronic signs, except the only people who would be able to are those listed as exempt from the prohibition on those types of signs. And there's 5. It's
Commissioner Thomas, if you go at section 1.70,
Yeah, I'm there.
and if you look at section B2, signs providing information on fuel price and grade and fueling stations,
Right.
so they would be permitted to use that
Okay.
as a specific use. Am I reading that correctly?
correct. So subsection A sets forth the general prohibition, and subsection B lists those who are exempt from that prohibition,
Okay.
which would include the service stations,
Okay.
gas stations.
And it sounds like an auto center or a movie theater.
Correct. Correct. So long as those types of uses would also have to obtain a master sign program, and that's to ensure just an overall architectural integration for the property.
Okay. All right. At this point, I'll ask the clerk if we have a properly noticed hearing on this.
We do, sir.
We do. Do we have any public testimony?
No.
All right, now I'm confused. Do I close the public hearing on this? All right, I'll close the public hearing at 8:13 p.m. And at this point, we have discussion from the commission. Any commissioners, now is the time to make your comments on it, pro, con, or otherwise.
Approve.
I like the way it was written. This is an easy read, so congratulations to the staff on putting out a really good product. So I want to thank you guys for all that hard work.
It is a very meticulously written ordinance that I think covers virtually every contingency that we could come up with. Of course, somebody's going to come up with something that falls in the cracks, and that's what hearings are for. But I think it's very, very well drafted, and what I find most enheartening is that every one of our concerns, it was in there. So it was our fault, not yours, which is
Can I
great.
ask one more question? Chairperson?
Yes.
It'd be strange to say that, but okay. I know it doesn't have, it's not our purview to decide this, but it does go along with the administrative difficulty of these things. What is at least now, the cost for a temporary sign permit, a standard sign permit, and a master permit?
I'd have to look up the temporary sign permit. We have a fee established in our from our cost study we did, but because the ordinance we have right now doesn't allow any temporary commercial signage. So we have a fee, but we have no way to issue a permit because when we did the fee study, we anticipated having a permit for temporary signs. So a wall-mounted sign is $400 for the planning review.
That's a standard sign permit.
Mhm.
Okay.
The monument signs are $2,000 deposit for a monument sign and $1,000 for a monument sign that is non-commercial. And the sign program fee is a mixed number, and we don't get too many sign program on their own. Usually they come in with the shopping center, so I can't recall that fee, but I think it's around $3,500.
Do you have any projection on what a temporary would be? So
It was low. I think it was probably in the $35, $50 range.
that's workable. I'm just thinking of, like I say, Mimi's ice cream shop. We don't want to be prohibitive, encourage business, so.
The question I had on the prohibited signs, item number Q is pole signs. Now, we went through this whole thing with that AM, PM at the last hearing where basically we just said you could do whatever you want over there. But I think he was going to come back with a proposal, I think, that might include a giant pole sign over there.
I thought he was going to do 45.
He's going to do a giant monument, whatever. So I know that we can't legislate for specific purposes, but we had that hearing last week. This would, if we enact this, would prohibit him from putting a pole sign of that AM, PM up there in the northern portion, right?
Well, yes. However, I think what was brought forward, this has to go, of course, to the city council, has to go through that hearing process, and then it has the time frame, another 30 days, second reading, so on. So, and I think what we did last time, he's going to actually, that was continued to the next meeting, and I believe the direction was that was going to be approved. Essentially, the commission, we didn't have the resolution, so you couldn't take action on it. So that 25-foot tall sign that he was proposing would then be approved, even though, because this is not in place yet, so we'd still be operating under the existing code regulations.
So that would go to the date of our approval, not the date of construction, whether it complies.
It would be the approval.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Any other comments from the commission?
I have a question on, there's a definition of a garage sale sign, but I don't see anywhere in the actual writing the word garage sale sign. I just know when you do garage sales, you like to run around the neighborhood and tape those really awesome poster board and marker signs. But I can't find anywhere in here where it actually says garage sale sign. Not that it's necessarily needed, but it's in the definition, so I just kind of was looking for it.
And I wish I had my computer here so I could do a quick word search for garage. I believe at least at one point there was a reference to garage sales, not as necessarily a separate distinguishable category of signs, but as an example of a type of sign that would fall under a given category. But I honestly would have to look for it to see if it continued to
I guess it'd be nice
exist
to
in
have
here.
something, I'd get a little bitter if I had to go pay $25 to put up a garage sale sign. I'm not gonna do that anyways, but, it just maybe a reference of, allowed, it's a permitted use for like 24 hours and then must be removed. And if not removed, city code enforcement has the authority to remove it. Something.
There's not HOAs all over, though.
Yeah, my HOA, I don't think, we're not allowed to, and everyone still does.
My neighborhood has no HOA.
Just little
No.
recommendation.
Okay. All right.
So do we have a motion regarding approval of this resolution?
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Madrid? Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Vice Chair Phillips?
Yes.
Chair Carwin?
Yes. All right. So that brings us to the end of the public hearing calendar. Do you have any comments from our Community Development Director?
I just wanted to say congratulations to our new chair and vice chair, first
Thank
of
you.
all. Good to have you there. And congratulations to Commissioner Thomas as well for the job that he did as our chair over the past year as well. So thank you for your service in that. Just the other thing I did, just on the sign regulation, I did want to commend staff because this was an effort. I do appreciate, particularly with Michelle, all the effort that was put in from our city attorney's office, but also with our staff as well. One of the process that we've kind of implemented and changed a little bit, we're asking staff and getting them involved in the process at the very beginning, which we hadn't done with some of our other codes, and I think it worked out very well, and I think that's a testament to our staff that we have, because they work with this day in, day out. They know the regulations, the requirements. We rely on our legal staff as well to provide us with the correct direction when we're putting it all together. And again, we do appreciate the commission's comments, but all of our departments took time and effort, made the effort to take this seriously and review it, and that, I think, made a big difference in this particular code regulation that was presented to you tonight. So I just want to congratulate and thank all of them for their efforts in doing that, because that's something we kind of pushed on them as well, and
Absolutely.
I think the approach worked well. So and especially and under Lisa's leadership as well, she did a good job in kind of putting it all together as well. So
Thank you, Mr. Brady. As far as committee comments go, I just want to mention that we just got a notice that the Citizens Advisory Committee that Commissioner Madrid and I will be serving upon, we're going to be having our first meeting on February 11th, and we do our annual review of the community block grants and get the applications in on those. I think it's up to $10,000 per application. They can get up to that, and we can distribute it, and then there'll be another meeting 2 weeks later on that. So that's going on. Any other committee reports or commissioner comments that we need to address? Nope. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's it. Thank you.